but are, of course, all throughout the league, they don't see eye to eye on this situation. Whether it is the willingness to want to lose paychecks or whether or not there's going to be a strike. So Brianna Turner, who's an executive committee treasurer, came out and said, quote, "I feel like it's not imminent at this point."
Let's really put this into perspective. The average confidence score among players sits at 6.1 out of 10. On the surface, that might not seem alarming, but averages rarely tell the full story. Dig deeper, and the divide becomes impossible to ignore. Some players reportedly rated their confidence at just 2 out of 10. That suggests there are athletes in this league who believe there's an 80% chance the season doesn't even happen. Meanwhile, others scored it at 9, acting as if everything is completely stable and under control. That's not unity. That's a fracture. A negotiating body is supposed to move as one voice, aligned on priorities and strategy. Instead, what we're seeing looks like a group that hasn't even agreed on the basics, what they're demanding, how far they're willing to go, or what outcome they truly expect. Brianna Stewart, who serves as executive committee treasurer, publicly stated that a strike is not imminent. Her comments were measured and reassuring. But behind the scenes, anonymous players have reportedly told ESPN they've been quietly preparing for a possible work stoppage since January. Financial planning, backup strategies, contingency conversations. One message says calm, the other signals concern. When players are preparing their bank accounts for a shutdown while leadership downplays the possibility, that's more than mixed messaging. It's uncertainty at the highest level. And uncertainty is dangerous in labor negotiations. The real question isn't whether a strike is imminent. It's whether everyone is even operating from the same reality.
All-Star game, because they feel like that would get the most attention. Now, some other things. How confident are you that there will be a full WNBA season? The average score of this answer on a scale of 1 to 10 was a 6.1. That don't sound great. That don't sound great. One pessimistic outlier answered a 2. The most common answer was a 5. 50-50?
Now we're getting to the heart of it. One player finally said what others may be thinking but won't admit publicly. "I feel like we're asking for a lot. I know we deserve it, but at the same time it feels like we're getting greedy. We're doing a lot of asking. We need to do a lot of doing." That quote is devastating. Not because it's necessarily wrong, but because it's anonymous. It wasn't said confidently inside the negotiating room. It wasn't attached to a name. It was whispered from the shadows. Think about what that reveals. There are players who believe their union may be overplaying its hand. Players who feel the demands might not fully align with the league's current financial reality. Players who worry the strategy could backfire. Yet they won't say it publicly. Why? Because the conversation around the CBA has become so emotionally charged that any dissent is immediately labeled betrayal. Speak up and you risk being called anti-player. Question the strategy and you're branded a scab. That isn't solidarity. Solidarity allows room for disagreement. What we're seeing instead is hesitation. Players calculating reputational risk before speaking their truth. And when fear replaces open debate, negotiations stop being about leverage and start becoming about image control.
You complained about not making any money. Now the money's sitting in front of you and you don't want to sign. It's a bad look. It's a bad look. Okay, so here's some of these answers. Quote, "I think we're going to have a season. I don't know if it'll be a full season." Quote, "I feel like we're asking for a lot." This is from a player, and this, I tell you what, some of these players get it. Some of them do get it. I feel like
this is where the financial reality begins to fracture whatever unity still exists. When ESPN asked players how a lost paycheck would affect them, the responses revealed a league divided. Some players said they're financially secure thanks to endorsements and nil deals. One even noted that missing a WNBA check wouldn't devastate them because their off-court income provides stability. Another shared that they've saved carefully in anticipation of a possible strike. But then came the other side of the story. One player admitted, "It would impact me immensely. It's my job, so it would be a big deal. Another said bluntly, money is money. I would love my paycheck. Those aren't comments from athletes comfortably bracing for a prolonged labor battle. Those are players who rely on their salaries and are watching negotiations with real anxiety. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The union rarely highlights this divide. The players who can afford to miss checks, the stars with endorsement portfolios, aren't facing the same pressure. Think of names like Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, or Aya Wilson. They have major shoe deals and national ad campaigns. Losing a month of league salary would sting, but it wouldn't break them. For others, it absolutely could.
5. That means say with some 3s and 4s in there. How would a lost WNBA paycheck affect you? Quote, I'm not making an insane amount for it to be a really big deal. Fortunately, I've been around the last few years. I've been able to make more money off the court, but I still want it. I'm fighting to have another year in the league. It's somebody towards the end of their career. I would love to have a season where I'm able to make more money and really just feel even more comfortable in life and be able to do more for my family.
But think about the player making league minimum, the 6th woman in the rotation fighting for minutes and stability. She doesn't have a signature shoe deal. She's not starring in national commercials. For her, the WNBA salary isn't supplemental income. It's everything. And under the new CBA currently on the table, that same player could be looking at life-changing money. This isn't about small incremental raises. We're talking about athletes who earned around $80,000 last season potentially jumping to $300,000 or more. Sophie Cunningham reportedly made roughly $110,000 with the Mercury last year. Under the proposed deal, that figure could rise to $500,000. That's not just a raise, that's financial security. That's paying off debt, buying a home, supporting family, building something long-term. For someone who didn't grow up with generational wealth, that kind of jump changes everything. So when the union asks players to consider walking away from immediate gains to push for broader structural changes, better travel conditions, increased revenue sharing down the line, it creates tension. Because not everyone has the luxury of waiting 5 years. Some players are 27, 28 years old. Careers are short. Windows close fast. For them, this isn't just negotiation strategy. It's timing.
Your paycheck and an upgrade, you know I could use it. I'm telling you, these women do not agree right now. They do not agree. This person says I've got endorsements in NIL, so it's somebody that hadn't been out of school all that long. But this one just really wants to play the sport because they love the sport. How about this one at the bottom? Money is money. I would love my paycheck. That's what I keep saying.
This is the fracture point. The stars can afford to play hardball because they're not dependent solely on WNBA salaries. Their endorsement deals, sponsorships, and off-court ventures provide a cushion. But the role players, the ones who make up nearly 70% of the league, are staring at the largest payday of their careers and being asked to turn it down on principle. And some are beginning to ask the uncomfortable question out loud. What principle? What exactly are we fighting for that justifies walking away from this kind of money? The union continues to emphasize respect, equity, and long-term revenue fairness. Those goals matter. They absolutely do. But so do immediate realities: paying rent, building savings, supporting parents, investing in a future beyond basketball. When you're asking someone to give up $200,000 or more in guaranteed income for broader structural gains that may not materialize for years, you need a clear, convincing roadmap. You need to show how today's sacrifice leads to tomorrow's security. Right now, many players aren't hearing that roadmap. And when uncertainty meets financial pressure, unity doesn't strengthen, it starts to crack.
The fifth player in the rotation on down. Those players are going to be like, I'm sitting back. We're leaving $500,000. Right now, I'm supposed to be making $100K, but with this new system, I could go up to $500,000. I'm just letting it sit there. Am I retarded? Yeah, no. I'm just leaving money sitting there. These players aren't going to be okay with that. They're going to sit back and they're going to lean back.
Here's what nobody is saying publicly, but plenty of people are thinking. If the WNBA goes on strike, it likely won't be the stars who crack first. It will be the end-of-bench players checking their bank accounts and calculating risk. And in any labor dispute, it only takes one person crossing the line to shift momentum. The moment that happens, leverage weakens and unity becomes fragile. Both the union and the league understand this reality. That's why the recent anonymous interviews carry so much weight. They expose something uncomfortable, the possibility that the union's leverage may not be as strong as it appears on the surface. Take Kelsey Mitchell as an example. She recently signed with Unrivaled, the emerging 3-on-3 league, reportedly as insurance in case the WNBA season stalls. That move speaks volumes. She's a max-level player, one of the league's highest-paid guards, and even she is preparing for uncertainty. When top-tier players begin hedging their bets, it raises serious questions. If those with the most financial security are preparing contingency plans, what does that signal about confidence behind closed doors? In high-stakes negotiations, perception is power. And right now, perception suggests doubt.
She's young, but she's not super young at this point. And there's going to be other players like that. Why do you think she signed to go play with Project B? Sophie Cunningham was playing for 100 and something thousand, I believe, with the Fever. She can go to $500K. That's the average play. Never mind the minimum guys. If you're Ari McDonald and you're staring how much the minimum salary?
Here's what makes this situation so precarious. The WNBA is coming off the most successful season in its history. The arrival of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese brought unprecedented attention to the league. Attendance records were shattered. Television ratings that seemed unrealistic just 2 years ago became normal. The Indiana Fever transformed from playing in front of half-empty arenas to selling out every home game, even moving playoff matchups to NFL stadiums to meet demand. That kind of momentum is rare in professional sports, and it translated into real money. The new media rights deal is worth exponentially more than the previous one. Corporate sponsors are lining up. Expansion fees for incoming franchises are reportedly in the hundreds of millions. For the first time in league history, the financial trajectory looks undeniably upward. The league has reportedly offered a deal that would dramatically increase salaries for many players, in some cases more than doubling them. For a significant portion of the roster, it represents life-changing income and a pathway toward long-term financial security. And yet, the union is signaling a willingness to strike. The timing couldn't be more delicate, because here's what happens if they do. The league's newest wave of fans, many drawn in by Clark, Reese, and the fresh energy of the 2024 season, don't have decades of emotional loyalty. They didn't endure years of growth pains. They showed up for exciting basketball and compelling storylines. Casual fans are driven by access and entertainment, not institutional attachment. If the season stalls because of a labor dispute, those casual fans won't necessarily wait it out. They'll move on to baseball, vacations, or other sports. Momentum in sports isn't permanent. It's fragile. The league's longtime supporters, the ones who've been watching since 1997, will likely remain patient. They understand labor negotiations. They'll back the players through a work stoppage. But that group may now represent a minority of the overall audience. The majority are new consumers invested in the product, not the politics. If the product disappears at the exact moment it's becoming mainstream, that's a risk. Some players understand that. The anonymous quote, "We're asking for a lot. We need to do a lot of doing," reflects a concern about perception and leverage. You can't demand recognition as a major professional sports league while simultaneously shutting down operations during peak growth. The NBA and NFL can endure strikes because their audiences are deeply entrenched. The WNBA is still building that level of attachment. You don't build long-term loyalty by going dark during a breakthrough moment. The financial stakes are enormous, but so are the reputational stakes. For years, the dominant narrative surrounding the league has been about underpayment and lack of respect. That narrative gained traction. Public sentiment shifted. Sponsors invested more. Facilities improved. Travel accommodations upgraded. The players achieved real progress. But narratives can flip quickly. If the league offers substantial raises and the players walk away, the messaging changes. It becomes the league offered millions and they said no. Fair or not, that's how public perception could frame it. In a media environment driven by short headlines, nuance rarely survives. A prolonged strike during a growth surge could create a vacuum. And in professional sports, vacuums get filled. Alternative women's leagues are positioning themselves strategically. Unrivaled is expanding its footprint. Athletes Unlimited continues to grow. If fans lose access to WNBA basketball during peak interest, other platforms will step in to capture that attention. That's not disloyalty. It's market reality. The players expressing concern anonymously aren't necessarily anti-union. They may simply be calculating risk differently. The fact that these conversations are happening behind closed doors instead of publicly suggests internal tension. Functional organizations allow dissent and debate. When disagreement moves underground, cohesion weakens. Breanna Stewart stating that a strike isn't imminent may be technically accurate. Perhaps no immediate walkout is planned. But when a significant portion of membership believes there's a real possibility the season doesn't start, the distinction between imminent and possible becomes less meaningful. Leverage in labor negotiations depends almost entirely on unity. If players strike together and remain unified, they possess power. If even a small percentage begins to waver, that power erodes quickly. And public reporting that highlights divisions provides the league with insight into exactly where those fault lines exist. From the league's perspective, patience may be strategic. If leadership senses hesitation among role players, the majority of the roster, it alters the balance of power. So what happens next? The optimistic scenario is straightforward. Union leadership recalibrates messaging, clarifies long-term goals, and ensures players understand the strategic roadmap. The league makes marginal concessions, perhaps improvements to travel, scheduling, or revenue-sharing mechanisms. Both sides frame the agreement as a historic victory, and the season launches on time with momentum intact. The pessimistic scenario is more complicated. Leadership may feel boxed in by months of rhetoric emphasizing dignity and maximum demands. Compromise becomes politically difficult. A strike begins. Financial pressure mounts. A few players quietly return to play, fracturing solidarity. The public narrative turns chaotic. The breakthrough season that was supposed to cement legitimacy becomes a cautionary tale. The players expressing concern anonymously appear to understand how narrow this window is. They see the money. They see the new fans. They see the opportunity. And they understand that momentum in sports is not guaranteed. It's seized and sustained. The WNBA just experienced its most powerful cultural moment. Media rights are up. Sponsorship interest is rising. Expansion is on the horizon. These are structural advantages that previous generations of players never had. But opportunity windows don't stay open indefinitely. If the players miscalculate this moment, they may not get another surge like this for years. That doesn't mean their demands lack merit. It means timing matters. So which group is reading the situation more accurately? The optimists rating confidence at 9 out of 10? Or the cautious players quietly preparing for a worst-case scenario? The truth likely lies somewhere in between, but the internal division itself is the headline. When uncertainty becomes widespread, it shapes negotiation outcomes. The season is supposed to begin in a matter of weeks. No finalized deal. Mixed messaging. Public optimism paired with private doubt. In high-stakes negotiations, perception drives leverage, and leverage drives outcomes. Right now, the perception is that unity isn't absolute. And if unity wavers at the exact moment growth peaks, the consequences could echo far beyond a single season. So the real question isn't just whether a strike happens. It's whether both sides recognize how rare this moment is, and whether they're willing to protect it. What happens if opening night arrives and there's still no agreement?